We are seeing riots in Indonesia, riots in California, or serious protest, riots in European countries like Greece. Why do the Greeks and the Indonesians get what's going on, but a lot of Americans don't?
Well, I don't think it's gotten difficult enough yet. And, of course, not everybody listens to talk radio or goes on the Internet. And so you have half or more of the population that never comes in contact with this sort of thing. And so that's why they don't know. And Europeans and others in other countries are far more curious than Americans are. Americans tend to be very provincial. Most Americans never leave the United States. In fact, most don't go more than 500 miles from where they were born.
And they think their government loves them and cares about them, but more and more of the polls show they're waking up that that's not the case. They think good guys run America when America's been captured by private banks.
Among other things, but the strata that's controlled by the Illuminists, and that includes many other things, but the bank is certainly the nexus of the whole thing. There's no question about that. You know, money makes it all work, and banking is now Wall Street as well, because many of them have become banks in order to get TARP funds, so they didn't go totally bankrupt at that time. And so I think it's a periphery of things. You know, 7 major insurance companies got TARP money. They haven't paid it back. And I noticed with this Chell thing, they've had a record amount of money that's been requested before it's terminated. And once they terminate these programs and the stimulus runs out, things are going to head downward. And I think
that's what's incredible. I saw an NBC headline where they just cut Medicare and Medicaid by 21% outside of any law. They're cutting all the supposed services while jacking up the taxes. I mean, they've got to know that's going to cause a revolt.
Well, they also got to know that it's going to cause more unemployment, too. And so after the stimulus runs out, it's going to be everybody for himself. And next year will be horrendous, and all of these things will start coming to fore. And in instituting what they're doing, what you just described and I'm describing, and
hold on, let's talk about this key point when we come back. We're going to get into a host of issues. Watch me! Watch me! All right, Bob Chapman, the international forecaster. I want to get into a bunch of news with you on other interlocking subjects here in a moment, but we got cut off by the break. I had brought up the point for listeners that just joined us that they know they're driving everyone into bankruptcy. They know they're destroying the economy. We have all the internal globalist documents, their public statements. They want to end consumerism. They use it to get us in debt. Now they want to lower our carbon footprint. They want to bankrupt us so we're dependent on government. This is economic conquest. This is bondage. And you were agreeing with me and started to make a point as we ran into break.
Right, and I think we're going to see inflation build up very quickly over the next perhaps 12 months. And after that, they'll probably pull the plug and they'll take all of these nations down together, and the whole world will go with them. And that's where I think this is all headed, and that's why they triggered Greece as the governmental leader into the abyss, so to speak. And, of course, if they continue to have higher unemployment and lower economic output, that will bring on deflation and cut off the inflation, which is in process. So that will be their way of getting rid of the inflation which they've created, and will dive into a deflationary depression. And we will, nation by nation, get in trouble, and then they'll have their big meeting, and they'll try to institute a world currency, which won't work. And but I do think that they will be able to put into place a world economic trading currency with G20 currencies in an index that would be weighted. And I think that that's going to happen.
We're going to get more into gold and the economy and ways to stop this, because if we expose these people and point out what they're doing, it's going to be that much harder. And people thought we couldn't beat Copenhagen, and we did. They thought we couldn't expose the flu fraud. We've done that. The media now admits it's a hoax. They didn't think we could beat health care. We've got a great chance of doing it now. We've gone from it being impossible, they told us, to it's very hard for them to get it passed. Again, the people are waking up. But I wanted to shift gears into some other subjects now here with you, Bob Chapman. Chief among them, as predicted, we now have all these big headlines, 9/11 truther shoots police at Pentagon. And within 2 hours of this event, they had his name, they had his supposed web comments on message boards. You've got, depending on the poll, 36 to 84%. It's wide-ranging, with the lowest polls, Scientific or 36, are 9/11 truthers question the official story. So I guess any time a third of the country commits a crime, they'll say they were a 9/11 truther. I saw Beck and O'Reilly, and I also saw Matthews and others the last 2 months. You've been on the show when I've been warning of this, saying 9/11 truthers are going to kill Obama, attack bases. Mark my words. And what an off-the-wall statement from peaceful 9/11 truth, who've just read Operation Northwoods and other things where the government admits what they do, unless they were pre-programming people. Then I saw their whole agenda in trouble. Now they're tying it into birthers. Now they're saying birthers are terrorists, when that's more than half of registered Republicans who question Obama's birth certificate. And so you've got the patriots that recognize the enemy banks, the New World Order, and they're going to need to run false flags against us. And now more evidence the Stack thing was staged. We know the underwear bombing was staged. The feds even admitted they helped him get on the plane, protected him, for part of national security operation. That's mainstream news. This thing stinks to high heaven. Beck's now out today just absolutely going crazy, saying, see, I told you. See, I told you. And I'm trying to find my Times of London headline. Here it is. Give me a document cam shot for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. September 11th, conspiracy theorist opens fire at Pentagon. And within 2 hours of it, they had these headlines going out, Bob. And then we had the case of Jeremy Tallis, We Are Changer, out there protesting the police and firemen and medical workers dying from the dust at an event. Out of a dark doorway comes a man with a handicapped girl in a wheelchair screaming, don't attack my daughter, ramming it into him. The witnesses all saw this. The news put out that 9/11 truther attacks handicapped girl. Look at how staged that is. And then they went to court and fought it, and I told Tallis, don't plea bargain, you have the witnesses. And the Secret Service wouldn't lie, NYPD did, and said, no, he was attacked. They attacked him, and so they lost in court. The New York Post had to retract. The point is, they're running serious psyops. The Southern Poverty Law Center says they believe the Patriots will launch terror attacks in mid-April. I've been saying that for months because I know there's 5 TV productions from MSNBC to HBO to CNN and Fox and CNBC demonizing yours truly, Alex Jones, and others in production to air in the middle of April. So they'll have all these shows demonizing us right when they stage the event. Now, by exposing it may not happen, but I just gave people a briefing on what's going on. Bob, I mean, this stinks to high heaven.
Well, it's just proof positive that, as you pointed out, that they are running these psyops and they are using in-depth psychological warfare and propaganda. And you can even see the timing of it because you've had access to it. And, you know, goodness knows it goes on every day in very subtle and very professional fashion on television. And these poor souls who watch all these programs in the news, they don't know which end is up. And that makes up probably half the population. And so it's up to us to be able to get the word to them and say, hey, stop. You know something's wrong. Listen to what we've got to say, and maybe you'll find out what is really going on. And one of the problems there is that a lot of these people don't go on the Internet, so that eliminates that source completely, or almost completely. And so we got to get them on the airwaves, and we're doing it. The question is, are we doing it fast enough?
Yes, the urgency for all the listeners to get the articles Paul Watson and Kurt Nimmo have written about this, the urgency of getting the videos in the last 2 months when I laid all this out to everyone you know, saying, look, he predicted this and others did, the urgency of understanding this paradigm because, again, in layman's terms for new listeners, let me explain. I know of 5 productions for cable news and TV. And I noticed when I was contacted by several other productions and learned about the other productions, it's all about how the Tea Parties are evil, 9/11 Truth is evil, we're going to stage terror. I see a talking point on the news with no evidence of this happening. Then it starts manifesting in the lead up to these shows that are about to air. I mean, put 2 and 2 together, folks. They don't just produce a bunch of shows.